Now, we've been very successful in extending our lives. In fact, average lifespan of a human being was only like in the 30s, usually during the Stone Age, when they look at the fossils. You cannot survive beyond 35 or 40. People really die early. And thanks to medicine, thanks to vaccination, hygiene, we were able to extend life. Now we're at the stage of asking for more. Now, if doctors, just like today, an average 50-year-old will get to live until the age of 81. That's the average lifespan of the Japanese. I think our average lifespan is around 70s. If ever doctors are able to cure, or scientists are able to cure cancer, nobody's going to die of cancer. You will only be extending your life to around 85 years old. A 3-year extension of lifespan. Nobody dies of heart attack. You can extend life to 4 years. So it doesn't really make much of a difference. Although a lot of pharmaceutical companies are focused on finding cures for cancer, cures for heart disease. Like one anti-cancer drug would cost around $5 billion of R&D from discovery to marketing. So that is why pharmaceutical companies are forced to sell them at an expensive price because the R&D cost is really big. Now, if scientists are able to cure cancer, heart disease, you won't even reach the age of 90. Average lifespan won't be able to reach the age of 90. But if scientists are able to slow down aging, perhaps we can live beyond 200 years. Now, when you speak about immortality or reversing the aging process, you should be a little bit philosophical. It's not like a typical thing that you go to a market, you put in your token, and then comes out a drug that will make you live long. Okay, so if you have to be an ethical person, you have to think about the philosophy. So, life essentially for me, or for a lot of scientists, life is immortal. Only our bodies are mortal. Our bodies are the ones that die. But life itself is immortal because if life isn't immortal, then there will be no life. Okay, you try to trace back, like, okay, we all come from the fusion of egg and sperm, from our parents, and then you try tracing it back. So from the first man, during the transition from the primates, all the way down to the cellular level, scientists are now looking for that one single life which started everything, and we call that the last universal common ancestor. Why is it very important for us? Because this is the first living thing which is still hypothetical, theoretical. Scientists have not found it yet, but I attempted to do it using computational tools because that's the first life and that's the first immortal being, and we will be ascribing our immortality to that last universal common ancestor. So death is really a very recent evolutionary mechanism of living things. Actually, it emerged a few billion years ago with what we call the complex organisms called the metazoans. And death takes place, according to Weisman. This is the first account of an attempt to describe death in the soma, or the body, as because the worn-out tissue cannot forever renew itself, and because the capacity for increase by means of cell division is not everlasting but finite. So scientists have been figuring out, why do we have to die? Or why do our cells die? Why do we age? The first experimental evidence came from the group of Dr. Leonard Hayflick. I was invited some months back to write a chapter in his book, but I had to decline because I couldn't find the time to write. But this guy is the father of a modern cell biology of aging. He was trying to experiment on fibroblasts, or skin cells. He was looking at it in the dish, and then all of a sudden, he was counting how many times the skin cell would divide. And then he found out that if he took a cell from an old person, it would divide, let's say, 20 times. If he took a cell from a young person, it would divide 30 times. And it turned out we all have our intrinsic clock, and It's like this. You start young, and then in the dish, you will undergo a process called senescence or aging, and all your cells inevitably would look flat and flabby. Okay? And he defines the limit as Hayflick limit. However, you can push the cell to undergo a crisis stage. A crisis stage is a transition stage wherein the cell will start deciding whether it will die or become immortal. If it decides to be immortal, it becomes immortal, but there's a danger that it becomes a cancer tissue. So most of the patients, or most of the people who are getting cancer actually acquire cells that are deciding to be selfish and be immortal rather than serve the entire body's function. And they end up killing the whole body. A lot of scientists are thinking of how they can manipulate the crisis stage so that they can be immortal. At the same time, take care of the entire mechanism of immortality such that it won't become cancer. So that's the trick. What is the clock of aging? We call that the telomeres. I think most of us have heard about telomeres. This has also been featured in mainstream media. It is every time a cell divides, it's like a candle. The flick gets shorter and shorter every time the cell divides. So when it gets to a point that the end of the DNA, the genome material, is too short, the cell will give a signal that it should kill itself by a process that we call cell death. So that's telomeres. And if we can extend the telomeres or the clock of aging, or make the attrition of your telomeres slower, then we can get our cells will be youthful, or it can extend its life. So what are the usual phenomena by which our telomeres shorten? There's a Copenhagen study that shows, a Copenhagen population study that shows that if you're stressed, if you live a life full of stress, you tend to increase a stress hormone called cortisol, and cortisol enters your cell and it cuts down your telomeres. So if you want to stay youthful, be happy. Now, another is obesity. Obesity is also described now as a chronic inflammatory syndrome. Why? Because if you're obese, your body tends to secrete a lot of those inflammatory cytokines, which then leads to free radical production. And free radical enters your DNA and they cut down your telomeres, you age faster. Violence, for example, if a women who suffer from domestic violence, they tend to look older. When they sequence the telomeres, it's much short compared to the population. And recently, they found out that even pollution accelerates the aging process. Lack of sleep will lead to increased secretion of your cortisol, and if you don't sleep well, you age fast. So how do you extend your telomeres length? There are very few accounts or few scientific evidences, but they found out, or a lot of researchers showed that caloric restriction is the best way to stop the aging process or delay the aging process. So this is Camp and Owen. They're both 35 years old, but actually monkeys, these are in their 80s, and they are twins. But you see, Canto looks very youthful, Owen looks grumpy. The reason for that, the difference is that 20% of Canto's caloric intake was reduced, and they were able to replicate that in worms. And they found out that there's a gene called IGF-1 that is responsible linking caloric restriction with the aging process. IGF-1 incidentally is being secreted by our body whenever we exercise. So you should also exercise if you want to delay the aging process. Now, the IGF-1 has been manipulated genetically by scientists, and the mouse that has a genetically modified IGF-1 was the Miss Universe of aging. In fact, it got to live around 1,319 days, and if you calculate it based on human lifespan, it's around 200 years. So that's the winner, the IGF-1 mouse. Now they finished the contest, and 2014 they started a new contest. This is the New Organ Liver Prize. They are giving out $1 million for the first science, for the first group who are able to synthesize an artificial liver. This is what the Methuselah Foundation. The objective is to achieve human immortality. Now, there are some people who actually somehow achieve immortality status, but somehow. And these are the valedictorians of longevity, and they're called the Super Centenarians. Super Centenarians. So this girl is actually the leader of the pack. She died at the age of 122. She was even seen biking in France at the age of 100. And she even gave a lecture during the anniversary of Vincent van Gogh, because she was such a little girl. She's managing, or she's in the shop of her father, and they're selling paintbrushes and paints. And Vincent van Gogh was their customer, and she was the only living person who can describe how Van Gogh. Well, she didn't say anything nice about Van Gogh. And this guy is the last World War I veteran. When these Super Centenarians died, doctors got their organs and started doing histopathologic analysis. And it looks like they cannot distinguish the kidney, the brain, or even most of the organs of our Super Centenarians without a 12-year-old person. Meaning, essentially, they cannot find anything they cannot find any cause of their death. Well, actually, Super Centenarians could only die. They're resistant to cancer. They don't die by heart attack. They only die either by accident. Like this Jean Calment, I think she fell down the stairs. Okay. And this guy, George Johnson, got pneumonia, contracted pneumonia. They either die of accidental infection. And one mysterious disease that they call as the transthyretin amyloidosis. When you get to live beyond 110, all the diseases that's supposed to kill us, they're already gone. They're not gonna work. And somehow, God gives you a new set of disease that you will have to fight using science. And actually, scientists have already found some cure. In case you get to live beyond 110 or 120, there's already a drug ready for you to extend your life. But still, since nobody has already extended their life beyond 150, then scientists still are clueless of what disease may come. But once these diseases arrive, with science can already find a cure. Now, when I came back to the Philippines, I don't know what to do here, because people find me too esoteric. I'm one of the very few guys. In fact, I think I'm the only guy interested in human immortality to basic research in the country on this topic. And I'm one of the few guys who are in this field. So when I came here, there are no takers. Unless I change my research interest, but I still love what I'm doing. I ended up in an engineering school. Somebody asked me, maybe you can teach or be part of the faculty of Technological Institute of the Philippines. And I pondered about it, and maybe there's a purpose of getting into the engineering school. So, yes, there is. One of the most effective way, actually, in my opinion now, it will take a long time before you find really or manipulate aging from within. But there's another easier way that you can be immortal, and that is through the engineering approach. How is it? Well, if you have a car like this one, this is a vintage, it runs as of this moment like a normal car, but in fact, if every time like the tire gets worn out, you can just replace it, and it will run as if it's a new car. So that's the idea, replacing your body parts whenever they get worn out. So that's the engineering approach. And we created a team. I'm also a consultant of Lung Center, the Philippines, because Lung Center is one of the institutions in the country that has a flourishing stem cell research. And I approached the director. We had a nice collaboration. We set up an initiative called the Bioengineering Stem Cell Based Therapeutics Initiative between the Technological Institute of the Philippines Engineering Group and the Lung Center. And we came up with an idea of coming up with the first trachea or airway that has been genetically, well not genetically, but bioengineered, created artificially. So what we plan to do here is we actually are developing printers for organs. So for example, my heart is aching and it's damaged. I just ask the doctor, hello, here's my MRI scan. Can you print a new heart? Sure. Okay, but I will need your stem cells. So you have to go to the OPD, they extract your fats or even your tooth. They get your stem cells, print the heart, place your stem cell, and it grows into a new organ, and you're ready for the transplantation. After a week, you can wait. So that's the whole plan. The whole plan is to do 3D tissue printing. Okay, we get your organ or a cadaverous organ. We decellularize it. We add stem cells, and then take care of it in a bioreactor, just like in Avatar. You can see the big bioreactors, and then implant it. That's the whole idea. So it all started from this paper, 2008. The cellularization technology was discovered by a group in Harvard. And they got this picture of a mouse heart. They washed it with detergent, goes very white, removes all the cells, and placed in stem cells. After a week, ta-da, you have a new heart. And then they decided to put in an electrical stimulus, and it started beating. Interesting, right? And then we'll put another twist. A lot of people have been complaining about stem cells. We've heard that in the news. And even the church is against the stem cell therapy because before it used to be embryonic stem cells, but there's a brilliant guy from Japan, Dr. Shinya Yamanaka. We are trying to break through a diplomatic relationship with the Japan embassy. We might bring the technology to the Philippines. This is called the induced pluripotent stem cell technology. He invented a way to get your adult stem cells, for example, from your skin, puts in some magic elixir called, which is composed of 4 genetic factors, and presto, you have an embryonic stem cell that you can prod to become any type of cell you want it to be. So it can be a brain cell, it can be an intestinal cell, or anything. So this was published in Nature, and he was the first guy to have ever invented the pluripotent stem cell technology. If you combine that with 3D printing and cellularization, you don't know how big it is, or it's really unimaginable. Now, people have already attempted to engineer organs, and this is the first guy who started it actually in 2008, and when the first tissue engineered organ composed of stem cells was transplanted into a patient, it became Times Magazine top medical breakthrough because it opened the door for engineered body parts. So this guy is an engineer. You know how much it costs? $300,000. One operation. I think there were like 21 people already having undergone an airway transplantation, transplant procedure done. Here, what they did is to use another technology, new technology that is called nanotechnology. You've heard of nanotechnology, right? Okay, it's also getting in the media. They use nanotechnology to recreate the scaffold or the house of the stem cell. Imagine a condominium unit, okay? And the tenants are your cells. So they created the condominium unit using nanotechnology, and then once they weaved it into an organ, like a trachea, they placed in the stem cells, and it grew for a week, and then they transplanted it, and here is the transplantation. And the patient, after 1 day, 2 days, is already out, and he lives a normal life. Now, we are now putting a new twist in our technology because I think that it would be nice to do a personalized medicine, a personalized organ. The nice thing about this is that you can print anything you like. You can print the heart, we can print lung. So we are developing actually a 3D printing technology combined with nanotechnology, stem cell technology to create a new organ. So that's the project that we have now at the Lung Center at PNP. This is the first 3D printed, but this is not an organ, but this is just a splint. This is from a baby that has what we call as the congenital tracheomalacia. We're in one of the bronchi here, you can see, it collapsed. So the baby cannot breathe. Thanks to 3D printing technology, they were able to create a splint right here, implanted, and the baby can already breathe. And the splint is biodegradable, so eventually cells will grow and it will replace the bronchi. Amazing. So we are still in the process of creating the scaffold. So we've developed one scaffold which we call as the PVA gelatin, composed of gelatin, jello, the thing that you usually eat. So we can create new organs using gelatin. It's interesting, right? Okay, we're about to publish it in one of the top journals. And this is the project that we are undergoing, or we're carrying out. And we intend to be finished by next year, hopefully. We were able to come up with a prototype. Here are our students. They were featured in GMA News. And we are coming up with a bioreactor for the trachea with our engineering student. And then we are also coming up with a hybrid printer, which is composed of nanotechnology and 3D printing technology. We have all the prototypes, we just don't have money yet. It's hard to get money. And hopefully, if we're able to finish our project, we're like yesterday I was talking to a group in Ireland who's interested to collaborate with us. Mahirap kasi you ask government, there's so much politics, there's that. It's impossible to do research here, decent research, without going to politics. But anyway, we're able to get some collaborators, hopefully in Japan, Ireland, to work with us. And what's in the pipeline? We're coming up hopefully with an organs and a chip. This time, it's like combining robotics already, nanotechnology, stem cells, and tissue engineering. It's going to be interesting for the country. Now I'd like to play a video so that you can better appreciate the beauty of bioengineering, tissue engineering, and stem cells technology. So
shared across the world every second today and was stored throughout the internet 20 years ago. With this colossal digital capability, one idea is to create things in the virtual world, and then bring them to life in the real world. And I mean actually bring them to life. It's a field that could deliver incredible benefits. When I was diagnosed with a degenerative disease, I was 21. Doctors thought I might not survive more than 2 years. Thankfully, I'm still here. A similar prognosis is often faced by people with organ failure. But now, radical forward thinking is offering hope for the future. Replacement body parts to order. A team of scientists in California believe that if you can design them on a computer, you should be able to print them out. Daniel Kraft investigates if there's life in this idea.
One of the most exciting technologies to explode into our everyday world is that of 3D printing. It works on the same principle as your 2D printer at home. But instead of words, the machine can read a three-dimensional design and lay down successive layers of liquid, powder, or sheet material to create almost any shape that can be designed on a computer. In fact, I'm even wearing a 3D printed belt, a single print, and I was scanned by a Kinect and have a version of me, Mini-Me. Now developers are trying to apply extreme 3D printing to a big problem. In the United States, an average of 18 people die each day.
Waiting for organ transplants that don't arrive. There's an organ shortage. I know as a physician that even when organs become available, we need to rush to go and harvest those organs and bring them back for transplantation. What if there was another way to merge science and tissue engineering to make personalized organs available for a patient anytime they needed them and based on their own body?
Sounds like science fiction, but here at Organovo, they're pioneering a way to build human tissue by printing it, cell by cell. Keith Murphy is the co-founder. So Keith, do you envision an era where we're printing our own personalized organs?
Now, we're not quite at the point where we can make full organs, but we can make smaller tissues. We already make blood vessels, for example, and we've already taken stem cells from an individual patient from their fat tissue and built a full blood vessel from that one source of cells.
So how do you build a living blood vessel? The process is remarkably similar to printing my snazzy belt. First, scientists like Vivian design a virtual shape of the tissue they want to print.
I just finished building an example of a tubular structure or a blood vessel. This is a nice interface because it's very easy for the user. For example, as you can see me here, clicking through these building blocks that defines whether or not the material is a gel or is a type of cell, which the printer knows which one to print.
So here it's cell A, B, or C, for example, and those would be different cell types, different sorts of inks.
Yes.
Right? Can I build, for example, a different shaped blood vessel, not just a round one?
Absolutely.
I'm gonna try it?
Yeah, go try it.
Okay. See, even a doctor can design a blood vessel. How many cells would be in each of these circles here?
We're talking in orders of millions of cells for each blood vessel, though.
So this is pretty incredible. This is like a computer-aided design. You might be normally building a square or a picture on a screen, but in this case, we're using the design software to build not just an object, but actually a cellular material, a blood vessel in this case. Turning virtual cell structure designs into reality is the challenge. First, you need the raw materials, the bio-ink for the printer. In this case, human liver cells, which remarkably are similar in size to the droplets of ink in an inkjet printer. For this test, we're going to print a mini liver. It will be just 0.5 millimeter deep and 4 millimeters across, but can perform most functions of the real thing. Hi, Vivian. So we've got the printer here. I see 2 different cartridges. What's in the cartridges?
So if you look in this cartridge here, we actually have liver source cells, and in this one here, we have cells that make up a lot of supporting material.
The principle of the bioprinter is similar to how an inkjet printer produces words. Following the computer design, the 3D printer creates sheets of cell-friendly biopaper made from collagen or gelatin to temporarily hold the cells in place. Then, it prints the living cell clusters onto the biopaper drop by drop. Each drop of this bioink is approximately 250 micrometers wide, fractionally bigger than a strand of human hair. Pinpoint accuracy is essential.
That's one of the great powerful things about 3D printing is that we have the ability to control exactly where the cells go. So just like we said, we can put them exactly where we want to go, and then we're relying on them to do what they know how to do and form tissues.
That's one of the amazing things about this process. Once the cells are in place, nature takes over. Kept alive in incubators, the cell clusters begin to fuse to each other, creating more complex tissue structures.
We can see tissues that we actually printed yesterday that have been incubating overnight.
So from print to incubation to culture in 24 hours. So this is now ready to go for toxicology studies or beyond. The question is, how close a match is the printed tissue? I'm taking a cross-section of human liver to make a comparison. It's very delicate, thin material. And I'm making 5 microns thick. That's about 1 cell layer. And once it's layered on the slide, I can stain that, put that under the microscope, and see what we've got. So I'm holding a slide of human liver, a thin section that's stained, and you can appreciate the complexity of the liver, which is the major organ in our body which detoxifies our blood. Organovo has printed out human liver cells as well. Human liver, 3-dimensionally printed from stem cells. We'll need a microscope to check the results. How does this compare to a normal human liver? It would look about the same?
Yeah, that's right. So the tissue is highly viable. The cells are happy, they're healthy, they're well organized, and we can do that all exactly in an automated computer-generated process.
The success of 3D bioprinting means that these liver cells can already be used in scientific research to test drugs and study diseases. And because the tissue will have the same DNA as the donor, these tests can be tailored for individual patients, a major breakthrough in medicine. So Keith, where do you see this coming together in the future?
Well, in the far future, the hope for this technology is that we can take a patient's own cells, take them to a central location where we can build them an organ for eventual transplant.
So it's an exciting age for the future of medicine. It's this convergence of 3D printing, tissue engineering, computer-aided design, genomics, all integrating and coming together to enable us to build new organs, new tissues in new, powerful, impactful ways.
That's right.
They've set 2015 as the date to begin tissue graft trials in humans. With bioprinted liver tissue a reality, this thought-provoking field is advancing rapidly. Clearly there is a long way to go before whole organs like the kidney could be printed. I hope that doesn't remain a fantasy.
That's the technology that we're trying to bring into the country. And in fact, when I was talking to the engineers, they were asking what's the resolution of that you need for your cells. So micrometers. We're doing it nanometers in the electronics industry. So if you get the blend of the proper blend of the technology, like the technology that prints your cell phone and your computer, that's way too advanced in terms of 3D printing compared to the 3D printers that we need for our cells. So we bring all those engineers to the hospital, and we'll see how big or how great the technology that we can get. Okay, for my last slide. They have calculated that life extends for every, that's the reason why we need to support science. For every year that science, or for every year that scientists are working, life of humanity extends by a year, okay? It's exemplified by this graph. But every time there's a new advancement in technology, somehow, for example, if you get to live long enough for that new technology to come out of the market, the failure rate of your body the slope changes until it gets flattened out, and they said that by 2045, perhaps with the onslaught of technologies, we can achieve human immortality. In fact, Google has already invested a lot of money in Calico, and they coalesced together with Genentech to come up with a company that will hopefully will overcome immortality. Craig Venter, the person who is responsible for the key persons responsible for the Human Genome Project, has now set up a new company called Human Longevity Incorporated. They're targeting around understanding the genome of 45,000 individuals per year in order to find the cure for immortality, or the cure for aging. Hopefully, according to Aubrey de Grey, the first person to live to be 1,000 years old is certainly alive today. Napanganak na po. And whether they realize it or not, barring accidents and suicide, most people now who's under 40, come on. Yeah, okay, good. Or younger can expect to live forever for centuries. Well, he said that when in 2009, so I'm still part of the 40s. Good. So that's the talk on the technology of immortality.